The revolution has come. Time to pick up the gun. The Black Panthers' call to arms, 1966. Chanted in Oakland, California, it echoed across the nation.
I wanted to be a part of what the Black Panther Party was about because it gave some purpose to my life.
Pigs are gonna catch hell. Off the pigs. No more brothers in jail. Off the pigs. The pigs are gonna catch hell.
I spotted them, I think, almost immediately as quasi-gangsters, as terrorists. And we weren't going to tolerate it, and didn't, and put it down.
Violence was wrong. Violence against blacks was what we wanted to stop. But the best way to stop violence was not to run out there and let your head be beat or let somebody step on you. The best way to stop violence was to defend yourself and say, you want to take my life, risk yours.
Black power means dignity.
The 1960s shook America. As U.S. involvement in Vietnam escalated, protesters took to the streets in an anti-war movement that would split the country. The civil rights movement faced its own crisis. Activists were being attacked, beaten, even murdered. The movement looked to its leaders.
I'm still convinced that non-violence is the most potent weapon available to oppress people in their struggle for freedom and justice. I feel that violence will only create more social problems than they will solve.
No man can speak for Negroes who tells Negroes love their enemy. No man can speak for Negroes who tells Negroes turn the other cheek. No man can speak for Negroes who tells Negroes to suffer peacefully. There is no Negro in his right mind today who is going to turn the other cheek.
There was a great debate going on in this community around this issue that was being asserted by Martin Luther King of nonviolence, and the issue that was being pushed primarily by Malcolm X, that, look, you don't have to surrender any of your rights to gain your rights as American citizens, and that one of the things that you have is a right to defend yourself.
The Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, broke with its multiracial past. Its leader, Stokely Carmichael, took the movement in a new direction: Black Power.
In this country, you were to think that white people were God, that they had the right to give us our freedom. And so what we had to do was to beg them or to act the way they want us to act before they gave us our freedom. We must stop seeking to imitate white society. We must create for ourselves to save our very humanity. Because the fight for black power in this country is indeed a fight to civilize a barbaric country, the United States.
It just so happened the same week that I became a SNCC worker was the week that Stokely Carmichael announced in this March Against Fear in Mississippi that what we wanted was black power, and SNCC became a black power organization, and the civil rights movement was transformed, or was in the process of being transformed, from a movement, you might say, to get into the society, a movement to let blacks have things they were denied, into a movement that was redefining what blacks were all about.
We felt ourselves to be the heirs of Malcolm, and I could remember, Malcolm saying that, we demand our rights to be, treated like a man, a human being in this society right now, and we are going to have that right by any means necessary. And it still makes the hair stand up on the back of my neck to hear that, or to say it, because I still believe that.
In February 1965, Malcolm X was assassinated. That summer, police shot a young man in Watts, the black ghetto in Los Angeles. The neighborhood exploded. The story would repeat itself in Newark and Detroit. Thousands of National Guard troops occupied the inner city ghettos.
A besieged city of guerrilla warfare. Sniper groups use day and night hit-and-run tactics before tanks move in to curb their window and rooftop barrage. Wreckage is everywhere.
In cities across the country, black Americans began looking for ways to make black power a reality. Oakland, California, one of the nation's most integrated cities. Southern blacks came here during World War II to work in the shipyards. They settled in West Oakland, the heart of the black community. Among them was the Newton family of Louisiana.
Huey was one of my first friends that I met when I came to California. Huey was known as a very extreme, formidable opponent. And all of the guys on the street who had confrontations with Huey coming up knew that. And that was one of the reasons why they respected him, because he was not one who lost a fight. I mean, you know, Huey's theory or philosophy was when you get them down, then you do something to make sure that they don't get up and come back at you.
In the early 60s, Oakland was dominated by a conservative political leadership and a police force that was feared by the black community.
People don't know how much we rely unconsciously on the police and the judicial mechanism to protect us from harm. I mean, we walk around feeling safe and secure because in general, if we have a confrontation with a law violator, we really think that the judicial system will ferret that out and that we'll be protected. Well, most black people in the United States, everywhere, just did not share that view, and they didn't feel safe.
You know, we could get arrested for suspicion of something that happened generally in the area. I mean, it was like, since all black folks looked alike, if some black person had done something 6 blocks away, you could be arrested and charged with it because you happen to be in that area. Or if you're walking home from school, something happened, even if guys got into a fight, I got my books, right? I'm college prep, I got my books, I'm walking home, here come the police, why should I run? Shit, if you didn't run, they'd arrest you and charge you with whatever had happened.
Huey Newton decided not to run from the police. He and his friends Bobby Seale and Richard Aoki decided to take a stand.
So one night we were just sitting around talking and thought that it might be a good idea to organize or create an organization similar to that of another organization located in Los Angeles. This group was called the Community Action Patrol, I believe, CAP. And CAP was very, very concerned about police brutality, and they were going around following the police and photographing and tape recording police activities in their community. We felt that that was a very good idea, because if the police knew they were being observed and their activities were being recorded, their predilection towards violence would diminish.
In 1966, Newton and Seale formed an organization to monitor the Oakland police. Borrowing the symbol of a Southern voting rights organization, they called themselves the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense.
Police are there not to, in our community, not to promote our welfare or for our security and our safety, but they're there to contain us, to brutalize us and murder us because they have their orders to do so. And just as the soldiers in Vietnam have their orders to destroy the Vietnamese people, the police in our community couldn't possibly be there to protect our property because we own no property.
The Panther flair for the dramatic attracted the party's first members, a mix of college students, military veterans, and streetwise kids from West Oakland.
At the time the Panthers were organized in early '66, there was no legal prohibition against carrying open weapons. The laws in California prohibited the carrying of concealed weapons. But as long as you carried a weapon openly without any live ammunition in the chamber, it wasn't against the law. The Panthers used this as a two-pronged means of both demonstrating to people that they could arm themselves and also trying to show the black community that they did not have to be terrified of the police.
And so they went into the ghetto, Bobby Seale and Huey Newton, with guns. And they would stand within 10 feet of a place where the police officers would stop some member of the ghetto. And they would stand about 10 feet away and they would say to the brother or to the sister, give you your name and address and say, am I under arrest? Don't resist. If you're under arrest, we will follow you and bail you out. Submit peacefully. This scared the hell out of the Oakland police.
This was a new experience, to be making a car stop and then have someone roll in behind you, and pretty soon the hunter is now the hunted, so to speak. I know of one guy personally that quit, went to the FBI. I would, myself personally, in that end of town, I was uncomfortable, but I developed a posture of taking on, I was aggressive. As soon as they rolled up, they became the focus of the stop rather than the person that I originally stopped. And eventually they left me alone.
The police actually got out and injected rounds into their shotguns, and we're standing there point blank, and at any point a shootout could happen. At that point, I very quickly realized how important Huey was not only to our organization, but to my very life, and that I had to trust and depend on him, as we used to do when we were in the gang fights. All of a sudden, I knew right then and there that Huey was in control of the situation. Huey immediately jacked around in the shotgun, stood the police off, laid down what the laws were about the guns, talked about it from our constitutional framework. The police backed up.
It worked so well that the Oakland police could not restrain themselves from running to get their congressman, their state representative, to pass the law in California to ban the carrying of weapons openly.
The Black Panther Party for Self-Defense calls upon the American people in general, and the black people in particular, to take careful note of the racist California legislature, which is now considering legislation aimed at keeping the black people disarmed and powerless. At the very same time, racist police agencies throughout the country are intensifying the terror, brutality, murder, and repression of black people.
I have these Black Panthers up here with guns on the second floor.
Whether their weapons are loaded or not, nobody seems to know.
May 3rd, 1967. As the California state legislature prepared to pass a gun control bill aimed specifically at disarming Panther patrols, the Panthers burst into the assembly chamber.
Wait a minute, now wait a minute. Right in the office. Wait a minute. Are we under arrest? Am I under arrest? Am I under arrest? You place him under arrest. Go ahead, brother. Am I under arrest? Am I? Take your hands off me if I'm not under arrest. Am I under arrest? I'm telling you to take your hands off me.
The racist government works. Don't let a man exercise his constitutional rights.
We did not go in there with the purpose of disrupting the assembly. We came there as citizens to observe these laws being passed, to see what was going on. And so therefore, when we were told to get out, we left, came back out on Capitol grounds. We sit down, had our guns, still had our guns there on the Capitol grounds, those who were carrying guns. And ate chicken, had lunch. We weren't even, there was no police, no surveillance, no anything there at that particular time. So when we left, and we went about a mile away or so, and we stopped at the filling station to get gas. When we stopped at the filling station to get gas, then that's where, out of nowhere, you had all these plainclothes and uniformed police come down and swoop down on us.
You don't know the Constitution, right?
Not like this. Sure we do. We're well aware of the Constitution.
You have no right to take my gun away from me. You break the Constitution like right.
They put trumped up charges of conspiracy and felonies on everyone who went in to exercise a constitutional right and said they had no right to bear arms in a public place. The California Penal Code section 12020 through 12027 and also the Second Amendment of the Constitution guarantees the citizen a right to bear arms on public property.
The Panthers had fewer than 30 members when they went to Sacramento. This dramatic display attracted many more.
We've always said, we're not afraid to say it, that these racist Gestapo pigs have to stop brutalizing our community or we're going to take up guns, we're going to drive them out. And we feel we'd be justified in doing this.
The Panthers' boldness made for more confrontations.
There was a fanatical strain in the Panthers that made them a dangerous organization, but they tended to keep it on the defensive rather than the offensive. And they didn't have targets to go out and shoot. They weren't like the Order or some of the white supremacist fanatical groups of today who have been tried and convicted of assassinating people. Panthers weren't that kind of a group, but they did shoot back.
They were continually hostile and charging the police with harassment, and I always felt that they brought it on themselves. If they'd gone and walked off and been quiet, I don't think there would have been so much police hostility as there was. But it was a two-way street. After a while, they became almost open game for the police.
On the night of October 27th, 1967, Oakland patrolman John Fry radioed headquarters that he was stopping a Panther car. Exactly what happened in the next few minutes remains unclear. 12 shots were fired, killing Officer Fry and wounding a second officer. Huey Newton, also wounded, was arrested and charged with first-degree murder.
The Huey Newton case had everything in it from a lawyer's dream. It had racism, jury selection problem. It had a whodunit problem. Huey Newton never had a gun. He had a book by Judge Fricky, law book in his hand when he got out of the car and went out towards the police officers. He didn't have a gun.
The prosecution claimed Newton did have a gun, but it jammed. They alleged that Newton then disarmed Fry and shot the officer with his own weapon. No gun was ever found.
When Huey Newton was shot in October of 1967 and his case was going to trial, we took his trial as a vehicle to continue and expand and promote the ideas of self-defense.
No more brothers in jail. The pigs are gonna catch hell. No more brothers in jail.
We wanted to get people to come out and support him at his trial. We got a flatbed truck and we drive around the neighborhoods and say, come see about Huey. Some people would call out, he's going to the gas chamber. They could not conceive that any black man could go to trial in a white court for killing a white policeman and come out alive. By the time the case actually went to trial in June of 1968, there was about 5,000 people outside the courthouse demanding free Huey.
Newton didn't go to the gas chamber, but he was convicted of manslaughter. Outside the courthouse, the Panthers played to their newest ally, the television cameras.
They liked the black leather jacket, the black beret. They liked the posters. They liked the drama. There was something about the Panthers that was exciting, that was different, and that looked great on the evening news.
If the media hadn't given these bums so much attention, they wouldn't be where they are today. We stumble all over ourselves to get the latest word on what they were doing and where they did it and how they did it. And it is quite possible that if we had ignored them completely, they would never have gotten where they did.
I mean, they knew that one of the ways that they could get on the 6 o'clock news was by making, some would say outrageous, and others would say very dramatic statements, and so they made them.
Execute black people for defending black people, then we say, bring it on. If you want war, let there be war. This is what we're saying. Is that clear?
In other words, if he is convicted and sentenced to death, Oakland will erupt.
This whole country is going to erupt, is what we're telling you. We're going to do everything that we can to see to it that the whole world erupts. Isn't that clear? We're not kidding about this. We mean this.
The government, the police, and large numbers of white people who'd never seen a Black Panther in person, they'd only seen them on television, were convinced that this was the most frightening thing they ever heard of in life and they should all be abolished.
While many Americans feared the Panthers, more and more young people embraced their cause. The Panthers' 10-point program, their Bill of Rights, demanded quality housing and education, as well as community control of the police. In just over a year, the Black Panther Party grew from a local organization to one with 33 chapters nationwide.
The 10-point platform and program that Brother Huey P. Newton was running down today in the courtroom is the key fact, is the key thing that has made the Black Panther Party survive and grow to the numerous numbers and the numerous organizations it has now across this country.
Responsible for the growth of the Black Panther Party. Bobby could talk about how this black woman right here who lives across the street needs to get some more food for her children because she's been struggling. That was the kind of person Bobby was. So as Bobby talked, you could empathize with him. And you could empathize. He could paint a picture of the black community that would make you want to go out right now and do something.
With Newton in jail for the Fry shooting, Seale took control. The Panthers adopted a new slogan, Serve the People, and began providing free breakfast to school children.
Everybody gonna need, y'all can eat as much as y'all want to. Good morning. Good morning. I can't hear you. Good morning. Good morning. Life is beautiful. See you said I was free.
When the Black Panther Party started that program, we knew that there were many hungry, especially black children, going to school every day hungry, and that we cannot learn on an empty stomach. There's no way. So we began to feed some children around the country. There was no way we could ever feed all the hungry children in the United States. But our programs like this, we call them consciousness-raising programs. And we hope that people would begin to wonder, well, if the Black Panthers can feed a few children, then the United States government, you know, with all their wealth, why aren't they feeding more children?
The Panthers were doing something. You know, they were doing something. They were feeding people. They were talking about taking care of the seniors in the community. In some cases, they were providing child care. And free medical centers were in the making. And those are significant accomplishments. So I thought, I think I'll just check these people out.
The programs developed in Oakland soon spread to other cities. In Chicago, their success helped 21-year-old Fred Hampton recruit 1,000 members for the Panthers in 4 months.
Bobby Seale, yes, they got together with guns, and there's nothing wrong with that, because we need some guns. Black people need
Fred Hampton was a former NAACP organizer and a very bright young man who decided at the time it ended to turn the other cheek. And the passive resistance philosophy of Dr. King just seemed a little bit inadequate for the emotions that were raging, particularly among young people in the black community.
Anything that he said could be done, he would show you how it could be done. I'll never forget, people would come into the office, Chairman, I'm having a problem selling these 100 newspapers. He said, come on out here with me. He would go out in the street with an armful of newspapers, stopping cars. Hey, brother, hey, sister, have you heard about the Black Panther Party newspaper? And his enthusiasm about this publication would just spill over, and people would be really excited, well, maybe I'll check this out, you know.
People learn by example. I don't think anybody has an argument with that. I think that when Huey P. Newton said that people learn basically by observation and participation, I think that everybody caught on to that.
Chicago authorities watched nervously as Hampton negotiated alliances with Puerto Rican and white gangs, the original Rainbow Coalition.
That we didn't talk about a Breakfast for Children program. We've got one. We're not going to tell you how many kids we intend to feed in Chicago. We're feeding 3,000 to 4,000 every week already, and I don't know how many all around the country.
As the Panther community programs caught on, so did their newspaper. In black neighborhoods around the country, tens of thousands were relying on the Black Panther paper for their news. By now, the Panthers saw themselves as part of a larger struggle, a world revolution.
Is this the answer? They said it. You hear them? Do you hear them in there? They're talking about the Red Book by Channing Mao. Red China.
I don't think the Panthers accomplished anything. I think they could have. They could have been good for the black community, the less fortunate blacks and the young people. They tried this, as I said earlier, with programs to feed school children. Had that been the main thrust, instead of marching around with guns and bandoleros across your chest, they could have accomplished something. But it got out of line somewhere down the line.
Do you think that... So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
On April 2nd, 1968, Martin Luther King was assassinated. Riots engulfed 67 cities. In Oakland, the Panthers clashed with the police.
I heard a radio transmission, and in the background, in the radio, you could hear the M16.
The Panthers wounded 2 police officers, then fled on foot. Eldridge Cleaver and Bobby Hutton took refuge in a house on 28th Street.
It was a firefight, just an old-fashioned military firefight. We put some chemical agents in the house, and I think there was some concern about the fire. I think maybe that's what might have motivated them to come out. There were, I don't know, 50 officers maybe in front of that house. And why, to this day, I don't know. Cleaver did what he was told. You know, the juvenile, just everything was fine, and then all of a sudden, bang, took off and started running. And at that point, the state of mind of all the officers after being in that standoff for a while is not knowing whether he was armed or unarmed. I think we all assumed he was armed.
Other officers say Hutton didn't run but merely stumbled. The unarmed teenager was shot 6 times.
Friends of Bobby Hutton who spoke did not eulogize the boy as much as they attacked the society responsible for his death. As they put it, a sick society.
Police around the country went after the Panthers. In San Francisco, they raided party offices on the eve of a major rally.
They came over here exhorting the young boys to carry guns, to shoot the pigs, that you had to shoot your way to civil rights, that you couldn't get your way in civil rights by ordinary dissent, by ordinary action of government.
The actual facts were that there was an exhortation to violence by a group of Black Panthers, and when the policemen moved in to arrest them, they all retreated, ran into this building, and the police followed them directly into this building.
There were 11 of us in the office. We were all arrested. Within a half hour, they had released 9 with no charges, and they came up with some ridiculous charge on me of suspicion of assault on a police officer. Now, there were 150 policemen with M16s and Thompson submachine guns, and I know, and everybody else knows, what would have happened had I assaulted a police officer under those circumstances.
In a 2-year period, police raided 31 Panther offices in 11 states. They arrested more than 400 party members. 19 Panthers and 10 policemen died.
The time has come for us to recognize that violence and terror have no place in a free society, whatever the purported cause or the perpetrators may be.
When President Nixon vowed to crack down on black militants and other radicals, he found a ready ally in FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover. Hoover denounced the Panthers, calling them the greatest threat to the internal security of the United States.
I looked at that like I looked at after Pearl Harbor, the people we hated were the Nazis and the fascists. And so it depends on who you are against at the moment. I do think they were a threat. I think the fact that the threat no longer exists is an indication of somebody did something right, or they fell of their own, who knows why.
FBI documents reveal that as early as 1967, Hoover had begun a counterintelligence program known as COINTELPRO to destroy black groups and leaders. After Martin Luther King's death, the Panthers became Hoover's main target.
It was just plain old-fashioned hatred for blacks. It didn't make any difference whether they were Black Panthers or Nation of Islam or what. He just didn't like blacks except as chauffeurs and servants.
And he was prepared to...
He was prepared, I guess, to do just about anything to make sure that the blacks stayed where he thought they should stay. I mean,
Wesley Swearingen retired from the FBI after 25 years in counterintelligence. His last assignment was to censor the Bureau's confidential files on the Black Panthers.
I didn't know at the time that a lot of the violence was being generated through this COINTELPRO counterintelligence program, that FBI informants were actually antagonizing Black Panther members and other black groups so that they would get into fights with each other and among themselves.
COINTELPRO operations included extensive surveillance and infiltration. The FBI found that the Panthers were an easy target.
Having an open door policy, you know, all kinds of crazies and individuals could walk into our organization. And because we were about the business of just day-to-day survival, when people came and offered themselves to do a service, we didn't question that. We were about the business of trying to carry out our programs so that, you know, because we didn't have a sophisticated network of screening people and that kind of stuff, it was sort of, you know, easy and a natural entree for agents or provocateurs to come into our organization.
In Chicago, Fred Hampton's bodyguard was working for the FBI.
We might not be back. I might be in jail. I might be anywhere. But when I leave, you can remember I said with the last words on my lips that I am a revolutionary. And you're going to have to keep on saying that.
Was there a fire in the, they said a fire.
We here? We ain't going nowhere.
We intimidated the police within the city of Chicago because they knew that we would shoot back, but they wanted us eliminated. You know, and they didn't know how to deal with us. It took the FBI, the Justice Department. It took them to conspire to eliminate Fred Hampton and the chapter here.
On December 4th, 1969, the party's statewide leadership gathered for a meeting at Hampton's apartment. It was late at night when Hampton and Deborah Johnson went to bed.
We called his mother, talked to her for a while, talked to his sister, and Fred fell asleep on the phone while talking to them. He gave me the phone, I talked to them a minute, hung it up. I tried to wake Fred up and I couldn't. I eventually went to sleep. The next thing I remember was someone coming into the room, shaking Fred. Chairman, wake up, the pigs are vamping.
Still half asleep, I looked up and I saw bullets coming from, it looked like the front of the apartment. from the kitchen area. They were, pigs were just shooting. The mattress was just going, you could feel bullets going into it. I just knew they had everybody in there.
One of the police officers grabbed my robe open. I was very pregnant at the time, and they said, "What do you know? We have a broad here." Another police officer grabbed my hair and kind of slung me into the kitchen area.
Panthers Fred Hampton and Mark Clark were killed in the raid. 4 other Panthers were wounded. Within hours, State's Attorney Edward Hanrahan went on the record.
The immediate, violent, criminal reaction of the occupants in shooting at announced police officers emphasizes the extreme viciousness of the Black Panther Party. So does their refusal to cease firing at the police officers when urged to do so several times.
The black community didn't buy Hanrahan's story.
The response of the community was that they wanted to witness what had happened, so they just started coming to the apartment. I mean, it wasn't organized, it was spontaneous. And according to our calculations, we had in excess of 25,000 people who went through that apartment within that week.
Don't touch nothing, don't move nothing, cause we want to keep everything just the way it is. Don't touch no walls.
I'll never forget there were black folks who said then and who will still tell you now that I knew it was murder when I found out what time it happened. That was the kind of reaction a lot of folks had, because it happens like 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, and they said, you know, ain't none of us up at 4 o'clock in the morning. You know, it had to be a murder, it had to be an assassination, it had to be a conspiracy.
Sir, you say your men were fired upon. Witnesses who have seen the apartment say there is no evidence of bullets from the direction where the Panthers supposedly were to be.
I said that after our officers announced their purpose and their station several times, they were fired upon from within the room.
For 12 solid minutes in those early morning hours, there was gunfiring in that apartment. And yet the federal grand jury concludes that only one possible shot could have come from a Panther weapon.
2 other investigations reached the same conclusion. Police fired 98 of the 99 shots in the raid. A map led them to the room where Hampton slept. It was provided by Hampton's bodyguard, William O'Neill. The FBI paid O'Neill a $300 bonus for his efforts.
We arranged it so that the Chicago Police Department would go in there, and we told the police department that they had so many certain kinds of guns and ammunition, and this place was well fortified. It was going to be a real shootout when they went in to arrest these people. So, and I'm sure that, you know, the Chicago police officers thought, well, you know, this is coming from the FBI. This is straightforward stuff. It's going to be pretty bad. And it turned out that it was pretty bad.
One thing that really did trouble people was the fact that that J. Edgar Hoover, that high up in our federal government, literally orchestrated what amounted to political assassinations of people that he thought were undesirable. That's really kind of the bottom line of the later disclosures of what the FBI did under Hoover in targeting Panther leaders. That's a pretty frightening thought.
By 1970, the Panther leadership was decimated. Huey Newton was still in jail. Eldridge Cleaver had fled to Algeria to avoid prosecution for the Oakland shootout. And Bobby Seale faced trial in Chicago on charges that he had incited riots at the 1968 Democratic Convention.
If we had it to do all over again, perhaps we would not have brandished the weapons so openly, although we certainly do have a right to have them. But those weapons became our albatross, you know, around our neck. They used those weapons against us to vilify us, to scare the community, and to criminalize us.
From his prison cell, Newton concluded the Panthers were hopelessly outgunned. He instructed party members to drop the revolutionary rhetoric.
We eventually realized that our emphasis should be on trying to make national more breakfast programs, better educational system, health services, and that kind of stuff, that was what we were about.
From Algeria, Eldridge Cleaver accused Newton of selling out. The rift between Newton and Cleaver was exploited by the FBI.
He'd write letters to Eldridge and say, when you're gone, the Panthers really denounce you. They don't want to have anything to do with you. They make fun of you. You're just dead meat. And they'd write letters to Huey and say, Eldridge really hates you. He's organizing people to come and kill you. And then they'd sign the names of people that both of them knew. So they both believed the other was planning to kill them. So when Huey was released from jail in 1970, Eldridge called and said, why don't you come and visit me in Algeria? So, of course, Huey's suspicious, said, this is it, they're planning to kill me, he won't come. And it's in this context that Eldridge and all the people in the Black Panthers in Algeria, it was about 30 people at the time, we called it the International Section, were all expelled by Huey.
Newton's manslaughter conviction was overturned. After 3 years in prison, he found himself at the head of a very different organization than the one he started.
You know, it's one thing to go into prison in 1967 with a handful of people, and then to come out 3 years later and you've got, you know, a couple of thousand or maybe more around the country. And to be a center of attention and to be a symbol. And when you become a symbol, that's a lot of responsibility. People, we expect our symbols and our leaders to be almost perfect.
Some people have a distorted view of me, and it gives me very much trouble. It adds to the sort of timid personality that I already have. It makes me uncomfortable because I know that I can't give them all of those things that their idol is supposed to. And I don't want to appear to them a fake, but I would just like to tell them that, you know, I'm just another regular human being.
When Huey was released from prison, we had made a fatal mistake because we had developed a cult of the personality around Huey Newton, which is something that we should not have done. But we thought that we were so smart. I mean, damn. I was 24 years old, you know, and I thought my shit didn't even stink. I was so smart, you know what I mean? And the rest of us had that attitude, too. So we felt that because we had read about the cult of the personality and the dangers that it could cause, that there was no way that we would fall into that trap. But at the same time, Ray, what we didn't realize was that our efforts to keep Huey from being killed by putting his picture up and by saying, support Huey Newton, our leader Huey Newton, we had in fact created the cult of the personality. And so when Huey returned from prison, this gang leader returned to a multi-million-dollar organization with offices and chapters spread across this country and internationally. He could not handle it.
The Black Panther Party was built on the campaign to free Huey Newton. But his release had consequences no one anticipated. Newton moved immediately to consolidate his power. First, he kicked out the entire New York chapter. Next, Newton began shutting down most of the 30 remaining chapters. Then he turned on David Hilliard, in jail on a weapons charge. Newton said later he thought Hilliard was behind an assassination plot.
Of course I was pissed off and resentful about Huey expelling me from the Black Panther Party. How could he do that, I would say? Hell, I founded the party. Essentially, me and Bobby Seale built the party from 20-some Panthers. He come home to a national, international organization and expel me while I'm in prison. I was bitter. Of course I was bitter with him.
He surrounded himself with loyalists or yes men. And anyone who questioned his leadership, he tried to isolate one way or another. And what we learned was that Huey had gotten really into drugs too, you know, and that the combination of his sort of natural paranoia and egotism combined with cocaine binges and alcohol binges just completely perverted his personality.
By now, Newton was living in a penthouse on Oakland's Lake Merritt. The press learned about it from the FBI.
We published the story in
I took a little bit of doing to find how much rent he was paying and all, and I got phone calls from black militants who would say, "Hey man, where's he getting the dough? Where's this bread coming from?" The bread, they'd call it bread for money. And some of them were down in West Oakland were a little unhappy.
I couldn't understand why he would elevate himself, because that's what he did. He took residence on a high floor in a penthouse that overlooked our community, and in a house where, or rather a residence where we were not usually welcome, and we did not reside there. So I couldn't figure out why he would put himself in a tower overlooking the community while the rest of us were still down on the flatlands.
Hello, my name is Bobby Seale. I'm a candidate for mayor of Oakland, and this is my family. My mother,
In
Thelma,
1973,
my wife, Artie,
Seale ran
my
for
children,
mayor to help
Malik,
the Panthers
Dana,
remake their image.
Jonathan. This is my sister, Betty, and her daughter, Charlotte.
Seale got enough votes to force incumbent John Redding into a runoff election.
You got my vote.
Okay,
Yeah, you do.
right
I
on.
really.
Okay.
Right on.
Right on, beautiful.
All right.
Okay.
On April 17th, vote for Bobby Seale for mayor of Oakland and Elaine Brown for city council.
Is it going to be a close vote on May 15th?
Might be a close
Redding
vote,
won
but
the election, but Seale's strong showing inspired black politicians around the country.
I see a victory for the people.
But the campaign was just very popular. People said, well, if a Black Panther can run for public office, and they were considered, quote unquote, an extremist group by many people, and certainly other black people can run for public office. So I do think that it made an impact locally, and on a national level.
The people of Oakland began to see that, look, our votes can make a difference. You had people who said that they ought to become involved with their school boards and the education of their children. And I think that tradition continues on. I don't mean that these were things that had not been done before, but there was a new spirit about the effort. People felt renewed that they could make a difference and that they could bring about change.
The party was successfully shedding its violent image, but Newton's took several blows.
He displayed all the symptoms of a person that was addicted to cocaine. He was irrational, he was abrasive, inconsistent in his behavior. One day he's, in the mood for the people, the next day he's out killing somebody. His victims always seemed to be black people, the people he was claiming to protect and further the cause. And he evolved from a guy that had maybe a good intention into a really just a basic common criminal.
During 11 days in August 1974, Newton was accused of attacking two women in a bar, pistol whipping his tailor, and murdering a young prostitute. Newton's behavior angered many of the remaining party members.
As they found out about these things, they walked away. They walked away. They could not be associated with those kinds of activities because it wasn't what they had joined the Black Panther Party for. They weren't quite literally putting their lives on the line so that folks could go on drug binges.
Newton fled to Cuba. Elaine Brown took control of the party. By 1974, it had become a local organization once again.
Elaine was getting us more involved in what might be considered more kind of traditional, established black organizations, community organizations. We're trying to broaden the base, the party's outreach. And, I personally thought it was a smart move because times change.
Under Brown's guidance, the Panthers gained access to the halls of power. The government began funding some of their programs, including the internationally recognized Oakland Community School.
We gave the quality of private school education to kids who couldn't even afford to go to public school because they didn't have shoes, because they didn't have lunch. We gave the 2.5 to 12-year-old students who came to our school 3 meals a day. We provided a full curriculum for them, and we were available to them. In some instances, I became the surrogate mother for a number of kids whose families were too troubled to take good care of them.
First, we're going to talk about the cube today, okay?
And I want someone to tell me, first of all, what kind of figure is a cube? Who knows?
We were preparing
3
them
makes how many?
for real life.
5 and this makes how many?
In them a great
6. So we have the cube head. How many faces does the cube head? 12. That's right, 12. Okay, how many vertices?
We had them to recognize their own self-worth.
I calculated we have enough air for...
In 1977, Newton returned from Cuba to stand trial for the murder of the prostitute Kathleen Smith.
I would like for everyone to know that I'm not guilty of anything.
2 juries failed to reach a verdict. After the second mistrial, the prosecution dropped the case.
What happens to your life now?
Well, I'm currently in school. I'm at UC at Santa Cruz. I'm a candidate for the doctor's degree in social philosophy, and I'm working on my dissertation. I should have it finished by June. And of course, I'll carry on our community work with the Black Panther Party. And I'm writing a book and doing all sorts of things. I'm very happy today.
Newton went on to finish his doctorate, but he couldn't escape the twin demons that possessed him: cocaine and alcohol. By the early 80s, the Black Panther Party had disappeared.
This man has never had a 1 day's freedom not going to court and fighting the police. It'll drive me to drinking, you know. I would want to drink, you know. And overall, he did okay. I mean, went to school, got a PhD, did incredible things he did under that pressure. But he still did not see the necessity to not drink.
Huey Newton spent much of the last 10 years of his life in and out of court. He did jail time for possession of cocaine and a no-contest plea to charges that he embezzled money from the Panthers school.
The larger community family that he connected himself with, he long ago severed with, he lost. And I certainly understand that pain. It's all we had. I mean, our investment was in the future somewhere, not here. And we were the architects of a new social order. And when that was taken away from us, and we couldn't dream, and we couldn't be visionaries, and we couldn't project anymore, then it cut off our lifeblood.
On August 22nd, 1989, Huey Newton was gunned down in the same neighborhood where he started the Black Panther Party. Authorities say he was shot in an argument over drugs.
First half is his public life. He started something amazing, which some people have said was great street theater, and some have said was the greatest movement in history in the United States, who some have said was the most awful phenomenon that they've ever witnessed. The world is as you see it. In the second half of his public life, we saw a man who, after having been daily, hourly harassed and often hurt by law enforcement, I mean physically as well as emotionally hurt by law enforcement and intelligence, beaten down by it to a good degree. And one of the things that I came to know about him was that his heart was very fragile.
Say it like you used to say it. Say it one more time.
When we said we want the end to police brutality in America, that was a great thing. Because what's happening with black people is that they stopped tolerating being beaten down in the street for nothing.
The power structure, which was the word of the day, had to begin to confront people in the black community who in the past had been considered militant, but when compared to the Panthers, were not militant at all.
In Oakland, the old guard has been replaced by African-American leaders. The Panthers were instrumental in electing the city's first black mayor, Lionel Wilson, But it was only one step toward their goals.
There's still a need for an organization, you know, with the spirit and with the voice that the Panther Party had. The people of West Oakland are just as disenfranchised and impoverished. They're not empowered. They do not own these buildings you see here. They're not the owners of that store over on the corner. We still do not have any economic democracy. So that our situation today is as it was 20 years ago.
Chicago's South Side. This neighborhood was once controlled by Mayor Richard J. Daley's legendary political machine. But the death of Fred Hampton transformed Chicago's political landscape.
In death, Hampton and Clark became martyrs, very powerful martyrs for the cause of black self-determination in this city. The first thing that had to be done was to get even with Ed Hanrahan, the state's attorney who orchestrated the raid. In 1972, the black community stood together in voting against Ed Hanrahan. This was very important because combined with white votes, Hanrahan was voted out. And more than that, he was the candidate endorsed by the Daley machine. So this was a significant defeat for the Daley machine. That really was the beginning of a movement that resulted eventually in the election of Harold Washington in 1983.
The same night Chicagoans chose Harold Washington, the South Side got a new representative on the city council, former Panther Bobby Rush.
It reminds me of the old Panther Party Breakfast for Children program that we used to have. You see Breakfast for Children programs now in all the schools. I think that the legacy of the Black Panther Party is that the youth of America, the African-American youth, poor and oppressed youth across this country, can in fact make a tremendous impact on the nation and can really move to solve some of the problems that it's confronted with on a day-to-day basis.
The Panthers' rallying cry no longer echoes across this nation. But the story of their accomplishments and failures is being told to a new generation.